Beloved, it's a pleasure to reach you once more. Today we are discussing love your enemies. We know to love even our friends is a difficult thing. How much more to love our enemies as Jesus loved us? That is a tall order. Today I believe by this discussion we'll be able to discover what Jesus actually meant when he said we should love our enemies. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 43 to 45, Jesus said, "You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust." Beloved, Jesus comes on the scene and he makes such a statement in probably his first sermon, which is normally called the Sermon on the Mount or the Beatitudes. Jesus knew that the Israelites had known how to fight their enemies, because severally, especially in the Old Testament, God asked them to fight their enemies, to kill their enemies, and they were used to these things. David would pray that God should fight his enemies for him. So they understood that the enemy must not be spared. And they even understood the scripture which says that suffer not a rich to live. And naturally, a rich is your enemy. But here Jesus comes on the scene and says that love your enemy. What a shock. But you see, Jesus knew that these people wouldn't understand what he meant by love your enemy. So he goes on to make some practical statement about what is expected of them. And one of the things Jesus said is that bless those who curse you. So in loving your enemies, you must bless, because it's very easy to curse anyone who has cursed you. It's very easy to hate those who curse you. It is very easy to even hate people who insult you. It's very easy to hate people who wish your downfall. It's very easy to even plan evil against those who wish your hurt. But here Jesus said, when people curse you, bless them. When Jesus says, love your enemies, what he's saying is that forgive those who hate you. Forgive those who betray you. Forgive those who have disappointed you. Forgive those who look down upon you. One of the things that naturally we cannot contain is disappointment and rejection. And every now and then we suffer rejection and disappointment from people. Even people who have things that belong to us in their possession sometimes disappoint us and they never return them. There are people who take things from us, and until we remind them, they behave as if they've never taken anything from us. And even sometimes when we remind them, they say they have not done such a thing. It is very difficult to love such people. And these are the people Jesus is saying that we should love them. These are the people who become our enemies. Today, in the world, we see how people in authority try to exploit those who appear to be weak. Employers exploiting their employees. How difficult it is to love a boss who spitefully uses you. And one of the things Jesus said that we should do is to pray for those who spitefully use us. People who hate you. People who don't wish you well. Jesus said we should pray for them. Beloved, it's difficult to pray for ourselves. how much more to pray for people who hate you? This can only take the power of the Holy Spirit. And he continued to say, those who persecute us, we should pray for them. Anytime I read this scripture, I'm like, wow, this is a tall order. Praying for people who are speaking ill about you. Praying for people who betray you. Praying for people who are telling others not to love you. Who are telling others not to employ you. Who are telling others not to keep the relationship they have with you. Jesus said, pray for them. And one thing that is also said before talking about those who spitefully use you is that Jesus said, do good to those who hate you. This has to do with practical demonstration of affection. Giving. Beloved, how difficult it is to give to people. Sometimes even people who have given to us, it's difficult to give back to them. But here Jesus is saying that just do good to those who hate you. I wish someone hearing this sermon will take a step of faith, a step of love, and reach out to someone who has hated him or her in the past. Could you take your phone and call someone who had disappointed you in the past, just to check up on the person? And this is what Jesus is talking about. I pray for us that we will be able to obey this word. Because Jesus said, if you love me, then keep my commandments. If you need the grace to love someone like the way Jesus is demanding, then I want to pray with you that God should give you the grace to love someone who has hurt you in the past as if he has never hurt you. Father, I pray for someone watching this video. Release your grace. That same power that was at work in Jesus Christ, that he was able to love even those who crucified him, and he could ask for forgiveness for them. Father, I pray that you pour out this grace upon us. Let the love of God, let the spirit of love be stirred up in our hearts, that we'll be able to forgive freely. We'll be able to love as if we have never been hurt. In the mighty name of Jesus we pray. With thanksgiving, amen.
Draw me nearer, draw me nearer, draw me nearer to you. Draw me nearer, draw me nearer.